Hey everybody, and welcome to My Friend the Reader BookTube Newbie edition. So, there is a book tag for relatively new booktubers. As I said a second ago, it's called the BookTube Newbie tag. And I guess it's kind of a way for people who have just recently started YouTube channels talking about books. To give a little background about who they are, what their reading tastes are, why they set up the channel, etc., etc., etc. I've been doing it for 2 months. I contemplated doing it much earlier, but a lot of the questions that were being asked and answered in some of these videos that I had watched were the kinds of questions that I didn't feel able to answer so early. And now they've been doing it for about a couple of months. I have about 10 videos up there. I feel that I can give you better answers. So I'm looking at my computer. Sorry that it's a bit darker too, because I am recording in the evening, right before a long weekend. I usually record early in the morning where I have plenty of sunshine lighting me. Today that's not the case. I do have an overhead light. It's not that bad, but you can probably tell a very different atmosphere. Anyways, let's cut back to the chase. So the first question is, why did you start this channel? Well, I'd been watching BookTube for a long time. I'm quite passionate reader, which I think everyone on BookTube is. I'd listened to podcasts, and I contemplated potentially starting a podcast with other people to talk about books. But it really felt that BookTube was where things were at. Making short videos definitely allowed for I think a more interactive relationship with other readers in a way that a book podcast didn't necessarily do. So that's what I did. I wanted to talk about books. I wanted to talk about books with other people who don't necessarily share my immediate geographic area, who brought different perspectives, and I thought this was the best way to do it. Question number 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? I'm not sure how fun I'm going to be. One of my friends who has seen some of her videos said that I needed to show a little more emotion. I'm not sure if I'll do that. I'm not sure if that's my style. We'll figure that out. In terms of what unique things they can bring, I think I think I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm quite a political individual. I come from a left-wing radical perspective. I think I can offer some insights, some discussions about books with that kind of perspective and analysis that isn't necessarily there on BookTube. In bits and dribs and drabs it is, I think, when people's analysis of books, their critical thinking skills are revealed. But I think that's something unique I would bring. And I think that's what you get, kind of the discussion I had on the Junot Diaz controversy, I think kind of gave you a sense of the kinds of perspective I could bring. So that's, I guess, the unique thing. What are you most excited for about this channel? As I said, I want to talk to other people, connect with other individuals who are also doing BookTube. I think I've done that already, even though I don't have much of a subscriber list. My viewerships are still relatively low. Even still, you're having all sorts of interactions. You know, the 2 or 3 or 4 comments you get on videos are still a chance to talk to people I hadn't been talking with before. And I think I'm excited about that. Why do you love reading? I think reading gives us insight into every imaginable experience of the human condition. And academically, I've done 2 degrees in history, and I love the storytelling aspect of history, revealing things about the past, the experiences of individuals and communities and groups as they try to survive, but also change and transform the world. And I think you get that in fiction as well, and nonfiction. I mostly read fiction, though. You get that sense. The window into other worlds, other cultures, other histories, to the past, the future, in ways that nothing else really does for me, and in such an in-depth way that you begin to connect in a way that maybe other medium aren't so well at doing, such as film. So anyways, I think that's why I love reading. What book or series got you into reading? Well, there's probably a few there. I think from youngest experience, and so I'm Canadian. Some Canadians of my age may know who I'm talking about. Gordon Corman was a Canadian writer. I don't think he lives in Canada anymore. I think he lives in Chicago now. But when he was 12 years old, he wrote this book, and it ended up getting published, called Bruno and Boots. It was these two kids who went to this private school near Kingston, Ontario, and it's just this comedic story. And I think I read almost every one of the books. There must have been a dozen of the books that eventually came out. And I think that as a very young person, it was definitely the series that first introduced me to reading as a child. As an teenager, I think that would be John Grisham. All the books he wrote. I was into thrillers at that time, or legal thrillers, and I think that lots of people. I think I was talking with another friend of mine who's comment that, for people who grew up in my age group, John Grisham may have been the first adult literature that we embraced. And more recently, ironically, when I was much older, I read the Harry Potter series, which I love and I adore, even though I have very critical feelings about J.K. Rowling and her politics. But nonetheless, the books are wonderful and the messages are wonderful. I think at the heart of the Harry Potter, besides being like charming and amazing stories, at the heart they're a story of anti-racism, and I think that's one of the great achievements of that series. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Okay, so I don't know. That's pretty easy, but maybe one question is like, if you're at a party and you're having a conversation with someone, what's that one book that you have? Not necessarily your favorite book, but what's that one book you have that you've read that you would want to put in someone's hand? Complete stranger who talks to you and says, hey, I like reading too. What would be that one book you feel you need to put in people's hands? For me, I think that would be A Little Life. I've done so, many people, but I'm curious about others. What's that book? What challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I think, in just through 2 months, is patience. And I think definitely just hearing some other there was a middling BookTube tag going around, people who are in the middle range. I think it's hard to imagine, between like 2,000 and 10,000 subscriptions. I wish. I'm at 65, 66 right now. But one of the things you get from their accounts is that be patient. It takes a while, sometimes it takes a long time to get to 100 subscribers. You're going to have tons of videos that are watched between 30 and 100 people, and that's fine. You just need to be patient. And even if it's only 30 people who are watching the video, think about it as if you're teaching a classroom and 30 people are listening to you about your opinions on reading. That's amazing. And so I think the biggest challenge is just being patient. And I think, to be honest, one of the things the attitude I think I brought to this process is that I haven't rushed, or I'm not doing it for the subscriptions. I'm not doing it for money reasons. I think in many respects I'm doing it for myself. I want to talk about books more often, and this is the way to do it. When did you start reading? I'm not sure, 6, 7, 8, I can't recall. I think I was a slow reader. My sister, I think, was a much younger reader, and I think it concerned my father a little bit, but I took to it, obviously, so I can't recall. Where do you read? I read in bed. I read on the couch. I listen to a lot of audiobooks because I have quite a commute going to work, or if I'm going to downtown Toronto or wherever for different parts of my job, and so I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts as well, but that's probably where I do my reading. What kind of books do you like to read? Well, I think you could probably tell. For the most part, I like literary fiction. I like dense. I like confusing. I like intricate sentences. I do care about plot, though, and I do care about books that don't necessarily move too slow at a snail's pace. I do like literary thrillers though. I just finished a great book on audiobook called Tangerine that got mixed reviews on Goodreads and whatnot. It's this thriller that takes place in Morocco in the 1950s. It's filled with unreliable narrators, twists and turns that aren't predictable. It was a conclusion that was amazing, and it's been optioned for a movie by George Clooney. So it's going to be, I think Scarlett Johansson is set to be the lead. Great stuff, and I think that shows that books that reach out to the realm of genre, be it thriller or crime, can also be sophisticatedly written. There's no reason to be too plain-spoken when you're writing thrillers or sci-fi or whatever other genre there is. You can write it in any way possible. So that's it for now. In the next, I'll probably be, I think it's been over a week since my last video. I tried to do this once a week. I'm going to try to do 2 over the weekend. It's a long weekend. I'm going to do some summer reads. I'll do 2 different summer read videos where I'll make some recommendations. I think one will be 5 new books that have been published either this year or being published in the summer that I'll recommend, even if I haven't read them, but that I've looked at the description and I think may be interesting. And then I'm going to talk about 5 backlist books that feel summery in terms of the kind of thing you can bring to a beach and pick up, and things that I'm hoping to read this year because I haven't yet. So that's it for now, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.